Lately I've been obsessed with Shogun Showdown, and it's everything I love about indie games. It's got a beautiful style with a great execution of the concept, a roguelike turn-based deck builder with a focus on positioning above all else. It's a game that's dynamic enough to support both moments where I'm staring at the screen doing my best to channel my inner Magnus Carlsen planning 30 moves ahead, and moments where I've made a build so fundamentally broken that winning the battle is more of a formality than a challenge. It's a true gem, and so critically under the radar I still don't really know how I found it. I don't really see anyone talking about it, but I genuinely feel like it fills a void in the space that earns it a spot alongside the likes of my favorites with Slay the Spire and Hades. Every now and then, I go on a wishlisting frenzy and I have become highly biased to indie games, with basically every indie that looks even remotely interesting to me ending up on the wishlist at one point or another. And I end up discovering some of these games twice, when I go to look for what to play next and find something I don't even remember adding in the first place. And that's how we end up here, with me initially looking for a small game to play before Avowed comes out, and instead I'm now 70 hours into one of the best roguelikes I've ever played, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to push back starting Avowed. All of the normal staples of the genre are here. You have equipment unlocks, upgrade rewards, and shops to improve your chances on runs. The story gets revealed slowly, in short bits as you go through and beat the progressively harder challenges that get unlocked after every successful run. When you start the game, you are on day 1, which is the base experience with no modifiers. When you successfully finish a run, you permanently unlock day 2, where you can attempt a new run with an additional modifier. It continues like this, attempting new days up until day 7, each day more difficult than the last. And it gets difficult in my preferred way for a game like this. Now when you're talking about game difficulty, that usually raises an eyebrow or two, and it's very subjective, and everyone has different expectations for what difficulty really means when it comes to gaming. Generally, when someone says a game is difficult, it falls into one of 3 categories. Difficulty because the game's mechanics are actively hostile to the player, difficulty because the game is asking for a mastery of inputs and reflex, or difficulty because the game requires a level of strategy. And that third category is where Shogun Showdown belongs. The first couple days can be successful without too much strategy, but it does such a good job of ramping up with the layers of difficulty as you progress that eventually a turning point happens. Where to proceed, you must meet the game on its terms and start to really strategize. By the 7th day, each encounter is so deadly that you need to not only make the best choice on any given turn, you need to anticipate how the next one will go. Making a single mistake can already be one too many and end your run. Learning movesets and understanding the sequence of turns the enemies will take, especially when it comes to bosses, becomes essential for consistent wins. And the game clearly wants you to succeed, and it gives a lot of options to do so. You progressively unlock more equipment, upgrades, and heroes to play, and even though it's a progressive unlock, these options aren't always better. They're just different tools in the belt at the player's disposal. The heroes, for instance, offer vastly different gameplay with only a couple of changes, but all have trade-offs. Each hero has a unique ability that they can use to change positioning on the field, which in a game where position is everything, changes how a player engages and plans their moves. For example, you initially start out as the Wanderer with the ability to swap places with an enemy directly in front of them, allowing you to move out of the way of attacks while moving enemies into danger. But the trade-off is the Wanderer can't create or close space in their base setup. The player needs to recognize that weakness of the Wanderer and then fill that gap with rewards as they progress on a run. Every hero has the same give and take because of their unique abilities. On top of those distinctions, each hero also has 2 unique loadouts to start a run with, giving the player an initial strategy to rely on while they look to enhance the kit with rewards as they progress in a run. Having so many options allows players to gravitate to the ones that they are naturally better at. Certain approaches will just click for them, having a weapon or ability they inherently understand when to use and how to position themselves to use it best. It gives the player a consistent avenue of success early on with a consistent base that they can experiment and build on. I think though, by this same token, a lot of players might end up fully bouncing off of a hero because it doesn't click how they can leverage the abilities well, and an unlock they've been waiting for might fundamentally feel worse than the hero or equipment they've been playing with so far. I don't think this is inherently a problem with the game design, but I can understand the frustration here it might create for some players. But I do think that the game gives enough unlocks early on that a player should have an understanding of what they like and don't like, and understand that a future reward doesn't necessarily mean a better reward. Many roguelikes include an optional mechanism for permanent upgrades that allow for an easier progression, as a means of ensuring that players who want to experience the entirety of the game will. It's clearly a design choice here to not include that type of system, and as a result, the game never gets easier. the player either gets better or gets stuck. And get stuck players have, with only 5% of players actually completing a run on day 7, which is a shame. Because it's a game that I think is so well done, I want more people to see how much it has to offer. Thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, it probably means you have the same appreciation for these types of games. And if you have any that you'd recommend, I'm always looking for more to add to the wish list. Thanks again.